Adonis Stevenson, Sergey Kovalev tailored the tape. Now, for those of you who are wondering where I got these statistics from, I got them from boxrec.com. That's boxrec.com. It's pretty much the #1 website for boxing statistics, so go check out BoxRec if you don't know about them already. Now, looking at the numbers for both these guys, they're both light heavyweights, obviously, the 175-pound division, but Stevenson tends to weigh a little bit more on fight night than Kovalev does. I've seen Stevenson up in the high 180s on fight night before, whereas Kovalev tends to weigh in the low to mid 180s in the ring on the night. In terms of the height, there's very little in it, only 1 inch difference. Stevenson 5'11", Kovalev 6 feet tall, so not much to talk about in terms of height. The big differences, as you can see, are in age and reach, and I think both those things could be significant if and when these two guys actually do get in the ring and fight each other. In terms of the age, Stevenson at 37 years old is 6 years older than Sergey Kovalev. And judging by Stevenson's past 2 performances, and I know a lot of people agree with me on this, judging by his past 2 performances, I think Father Time might be starting to catch up with Adonis Stevenson now. From what I've seen, I think he's starting to slow down in terms of hand speed and foot speed. And crucially, I think his reflexes are starting to slow down now. And I know there are fighters out there like Floyd Mayweather and Bernard Hopkins who carry on well into their late 30s, and in the case of Hopkins in his late 40s, and they're still very effective and put in some of the best performances of their career. But those are fighters with far more rounded skill sets than Adonis Stevenson. Stevenson really is a one-trick pony. He's a straight left hand, and that's it. He's nowhere near as rounded or complete of a fighter as a guy like Mayweather or Hopkins. He's far more one-dimensional. So when Stevenson's speed and reflexes start to decline, it's going to be far more detrimental for a guy like him, as one-dimensional as he is, than it would be for guys like Mayweather or Hopkins. That's why this age could really be significant, because against a guy like Kovalev, you better take your opportunities. You better be quick to be able to get away from Kovalev's attacks, and you better be quick and sharp with your reflexes to be able to see the openings and land your punch as quickly as possible and accurately as possible. Okay, so it's going to be crucial for Stevenson to be sharp and accurate on the night. Against Sokotsky in the early rounds, he missed a lot of those left hands. Can't afford to do that against Kovalev, because you might not get many opportunities before Kovalev puts you to sleep. You know, so you better take your opportunities when they present themselves. So I think the age could be a big factor. By the time they fight, Stevenson will probably be 38, Kovalev 32. Kovalev is probably reaching his physical peak at the moment. So I think age could be a factor. Pretty much everyone has Kovalev as a favorite, including myself. Okay, so but Stevenson does have a chance. He has a chance with that straight left hand. But to land that straight left hand, his reflexes and his speed are going to be crucial. And as you get older, I don't care who you are, your reflexes and speed do diminish. They do diminish. So age could be a factor if these guys actually get in the ring. Also the reach. I've been telling people this for time. Stevenson has abnormally long arms, and the way he fights, he maximizes his reach. If you remember Stevenson when he fought Fonfara and when he fought Tony Bellew, both of those guys are way taller than Stevenson. Both of those guys are around 6'1", 6'2". But yet Stevenson was able to control those guys from distance. It wasn't until Fonfara got up close to Stevenson that he was able to land some punches. But at long range, Stevenson was doing all the better work because he has these ridiculously long arms. The guy's only 5'11", but he has a 77-inch reach. Unbelievable. And just to put it in perspective, David Haye is 6'3". He's a heavyweight. And he has decent size, decent length arms for his height. And his reach is only 78 inches. Only 1 inch longer than Stevenson's reach, despite the fact that he's 4 inches taller than Stevenson. So Stevenson really does have very, very long arms, and he knows how to use them. He sticks that right jab out there, he extends his arms, and he keeps his opponents on the end of that ridiculously long reach that he has. So that's something that Kovalev will have to contend with. This won't be like the Hopkins fight, where Kovalev was able to touch Hopkins, but Hopkins' punches were falling short. Quite the opposite. This is going to be a case where Stevenson keeps Kovalev on the outside, and Kovalev's going to have to get past that long reach. The difference being, I don't see Stevenson walking Kovalev down. I can't see it that way. Stevenson allows people to walk him down. Even guys like Fonfara and Sokotsky, and to to a lesser degree, Tavoris Cloud, they were able to walk Stevenson down. He doesn't draw a line in the sand. That's one of my problems that I have with Adonis Stevenson stylistically. If you look at this fight with Kovalev and Stevenson, just to make a generic comparison, I know these guys are not exactly the same as the fighters I'm going to mention, but just making a generic comparison in terms of styles. If you say Adonis Stevenson is Rigondeaux and Kovalev is Nonito Donaire, what Rigondeaux did so very well in the fight with Donaire is he drew a line in the sand early in the fight. Because Donaire being the bigger guy, the guy who had power in both hands rather than just power in the left hand like Rigondeaux, and going into the fight, most people felt that Donaire had the better chin than Rigondeaux as well and was a naturally bigger guy. Donaire went in there thinking, I can walk this guy down, I can bully this guy. And what Rigondeaux did at the opening bell, he stood in the middle of the ring and he let several heavy left hands go to let Donaire know, you ain't walking me down. He drew a line in the sand, hit him with some of them big lefts, and he said, you are not walking me down. You better go to plan B, because if plan A was walking me down, that's not going to work. You're not walking no one down tonight. And that's pretty much how that fight went until the late rounds where Donaire gritted his teeth, decided to walk through some punches, and eventually did manage to knock Rigondeaux down and have Rigondeaux backpedaling a little bit, but that was towards the end of the fight. But for the most part, Rigondeaux was very successful at getting Donaire's respect and not allowing Donaire to, or discouraging Donaire from closing him down and walking him down. Stevenson doesn't do that with guys. Against guys like Fonfara and even against Sokotsky, he allows these guys to walk him down and move him around the ring and maneuver him into corners. And that's going to be perilous against a guy like Kovalev, who's very good at cutting off the ring. Very good at cutting off the ring. And he has two-handed power. The moment that Kovalev gets inside Stevenson's go-go gadget arms, Stevenson is in a very precarious situation. Because this is a guy in Kovalev who just has rocks for fists. If he hits you in the body, if he hits you in the head with either hand, you're going to be in big trouble. Whereas Stevenson only has a left hand and it's only from long range. That's it. Outside of long range, Stevenson is at a massive disadvantage against Kovalev. So the reach is absolutely crucial in this fight. Absolutely crucial. Stevenson has to get to Kovalev at long range because anything else, I can't see him winning. So that's my breakdown of the statistics, of the stats of these guys at Taylor the Tape. Let me know what you think. I know a lot of people, when I posted these stats on Facebook, were shocked by the difference in age and the difference in reach. They were actually shocked by those stats. But I've been telling people for time, Stevenson's got these freakishly long arms and he knows how to use them very well. It's once you get past that long arm, those long arms of Stevenson, that's when he's vulnerable. And we've seen him against Fonfara and, other fighters in the past looking vulnerable once they get past his long reach. He doesn't draw a line in the sand and keep you off him. He allows you to walk him back and maneuver him into corners and stuff like that. What is suicide against Adonis Stevenson is if you don't walk Stevenson down, is if you give him space and you don't try and push him backwards. That's suicide. Okay, ask Chad Dawson. You have to put him under pressure. So Kovalev, he has to be careful, obviously, coming forward. But I would expect him, and I would urge him, actually, to be a bit more aggressive in terms of closing the range and the distance down than he was against Bernard Hopkins. Because Hopkins, there wasn't any kind of danger at long range with Hopkins. He wasn't going to hit Kovalev with anything that was going to knock him out suddenly or anything like that. And Hopkins, it seemed anyway in the fight, actually had the shorter arms than Kovalev. Whereas this is going to be the opposite. This is where Stevenson has significantly longer arms than Kovalev. So at long range, it's very perilous for Kovalev out there at long range. You don't want to be at long range with Stevenson. That's where he's at home. It's a shooting gallery at long range. And you got to get through that shooting gallery and get to Stevenson's chin. So very intriguing looking at these stats. I think the age and the reach could be very significant. Drop your comments below and let me know what you think of this Taylor the Tape. This is Hatman, I'm out.